All these parts on this fixture here are all precision ground, perpendicular to both the ram and the face on the fixture. So if you're gonna need to make one of these, that's how it's got to be. You have to have both surfaces machined perpendicular to each other. For right now, I'm going to move around here to the back of the ram and just show you what we do to set this U piece back on. If you have the ram already up on here, that's fine. You can slide this forward to gain enough clearance to clear your fixture shaft here. For now, I have this off as if we were having it brand new, and or if it's used, you're a little bit better off that it was just removed for a service and put back on, because it'll be all ground. We're just using this as a demonstration purpose. You're going to want to make sure both on this surface here, you're clean, and this surface here, you're clean. Your keys are installed, and for right now, like I said, for time saving, just make sure once everything's clean that this surface here will be oiled. This is going to need to slide back and forth. Hopefully everything too is all nice and surface ground if it's brand new and sent to you. Once everything's cleaned, you can now install your wraparound. Make sure it sits flush all the way down to the bottom. You can also run a 1 thou feeler gauge around the bottom just to make sure you're sitting flush. I'm not going to do that for time constraints. Next, also at this point in time, you're going to have 8 half 13 bolts on the bottom. You're going to want to install them and just install them loosely, finger tight. For now, I'm just showing you 4. Speed up the process a little bit. Of course, back out in the field, all 8 will have to be installed. Next, what I like to do is I'm going to install this ram on the top. I'll talk a little bit about this before we get into setting everything up for alignment. Just going to take your ram, as we can see here, 2-inch reference mark from the edge of the rail. That's to set the depth on the bearings on both the ball screw and the roll screw. As you can see here, it's marked out. If you receive your ram and it's used, these marks will already be ground right through the paint, probably with a black mark on the top. So what we'll do is set a ram 2 inches from that, on that. Then we will then take your bearings. Your rails should already be installed, and your side set screws should already be installed as well. At this point in time, you're going to want to clean your side bearings and insert your side bearings up to that 2-inch mark. Just like that. If you can see through there, through the back, you can see they're sitting right on the 2-inch mark. Once you have all your bearings set in, you're going to want to run over your bolts here on both the, actually I should say this first. On the roll screw, you're going to want to torque your side screws to 50 inch-pounds. On your ball screws assemblies, you're going to want to torque your side screws to 25 inch-pounds. On the top, all assemblies, whether it be ball screw or roll screw, will have each one of these torqued to 150 inch-pounds. Set your side screws first, and then do your top screws last. That'll set this ram in a position right where it's got to be on top of the bay. From there, what you'll do is you're going to slide your whole HIAC assembly back and forth to make sure it rolls freely, and then proceed all the way to the back until it stops. At this point in time, what you want to do is you're going to want to clamp or somehow obstruct this ram from moving forward, whether you want to use a clamp and a block, or just a piece of wood, or a jack bar off a work rest holder. Whatever you want to use, you can do so at this point. You just don't want this to move around. For now, since this is an unground item, it's sitting directly on the top and will not move for just the video purpose and demonstration. Now we'll start to focus on what we have to do in the back to align this. Like I said, we are using a factory alignment fixture, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to insert this piece onto the fixture shaft, and I'm going to take a 1 thou indicator. You can use 1 thou, you can use tenths, whatever you so choose. I choose 1 thou because you only want to try to get this perfectly centered up to a thou tolerance. So I choose a 1 thou. It's a little bit easier to see on my eyes. Once you place your indicator on there, what you're going to want to do is slide your indicator inside the rear hole in the yoke where the shaft comes through, and then gently rock your indicator back to set it to any number that you so choose, because for right now what we're going to focus on in the first beginning portion here is side to side lateral movement to get this centered. Then we can move to the up and down. As we go through this, and I'll show you the side to side, if this was a used item, if this was just taken off and placed on the side for a service of a ball screw or a roll screw, you're going to be a little bit ahead of the game, because this unit here was already set for factory shims, and I'll talk about that when we come up to it. And as long as you used all your hardware that was here, that, like I said, this was disassembled for, you know, service or whatever, from there, at least with everything in combination together, once the side to side gets set, then your top to bottom might fall right into place and you might not have to worry, but I'll get to that in a second. What you're going to want to do to set your height and make sure that you're centered is always work side to side. That's why I said leave these bolts on the bottom loose. What you're going to want to do is rock your indicator to both the right and the left hand sides, and tap this gently back and forth until you've reached a center. For right now, even on an unground piece, I'm fairly close to what we have. But just gently, you can tap it with a hand or a hammer, whatever you so choose, whatever you have available. You're just going to want to rock it back and forth and tap it just till you come up to a center. And you'll notice you came to a center when you went to the right and the left hand side, and the numbers line up exactly, say on 10 thousandths or 5 thousandths or what so have you. Then once you get these set up close to what we have now, is what you're going to want to do is come underneath here, starting from the middle, working out and down to the front. You're going to want to tighten the bolts in an X-style fashion. I always start with the 2 centers and then work my way out to the corners and tighten all your bolts up snug. Not over tight, not too tight, just snug enough that the horseshoe can't move or the wraparound. I'll just put these 4 in rather quickly. Now, since you've set the sides, you know you're centered on the sides, now is the time to check top to bottom. So what you're going to want to do is recenter your indicator to the center of the top of the hole, set it to 0, and then rotate your indicator down to the bottom. And you could use a mirror, or if you're agile enough, just look down and see how many thousandths you're off on the bottom. If it is a used piece, like I said before, where it was just disassembled, you might have saved yourself a step, because this here, since it was already on here, it's set to the factory with whatever factory shims were included in here, might line up 100%. If this piece was new and received to you, such as like for a damaged item or whatever, this piece was ground and is probably not going to match. So at this point in time, I'm just going to discuss about if you had to shim these, what you need, what's included. Usually what happens is when these are brand new, they're going to be off a couple thou. whether it be 5, 10, 15 thou. So what we do is we shim the ram to bring this height up to center. Usually what we do, and I have one here, is a shim, which is usually we install from the factory. If you were used and you've had all these pieces already inside and installed just like it came back out, good, you're ahead of the game. If not, what you're going to want to do is, if you were 10 thousandths out on the bottom, what you're going to want to do is get a plastic shim pack. They're available at McGass or Car or whatever supplier. You can pick one up. Then what you're going to want to do is 10 thou out, you're going to want to get a 5 thou shim and then install a 5 thou shim in underneath the rail on the bearing side. And what that'll do is that'll adjust your height up and down. Now if you fall into the negative side or you notice the needle has dropped, what's going to have to happen is these rails here can't fit underneath. They're going to have to be removed from the bed, and the bed's going to have to be ground to accommodate the rail height. Same thing, same principle. If it's 10 thou out, you'll have to grind the rails or the bed down 5 thou. We usually choose to do the bed. This way the rails stay perfectly straight. At this point in time, you should have a pretty good indication of how to center one of these up. If you have any questions or you need other parts of knowledge about this, our service techs and assembly techs are more than happy to get on the phone with you and discuss it over the phone or whatever you need to do. I thank you guys for listening to this, and hopefully, this little segment and demonstration here can help you align your new horseshoe or your existing one that's available. Thank you, and I appreciate your time.